I like smut, but I like it in a fantasy context. Like I don't read smut that's like modern or contemporary. I specifically like it like wear medieval clothes. That's what I want with smut.
I agree. I've read contemporary romance that has smut in it, and I immediately get the ick. I'm like, ugh, this is a man that guy could find on the street. Gross. Like,
This could be anyone.
disgusting. This could be anybody.
Hello, how's it going? My name's Tanya. I'm one half of Fangirl Feels. We also have here.
Olivia, I'm the second half of Fangirl Feels.
And if you're new to this podcast, we meet every week to talk about all the things that give us all the feels, all the books, TV shows, movies that we watch and consume that give us too many feelings. And now we can talk about TV shows and movies because the SAG-AFTRA union and WGA union had their demands met. Woo, the strikes are over.
I'm so excited, just in time too, because there's like the Percy Jackson show coming out later this year, and Avatar: The Last Airbender comes out in February. Oh my goodness.
We will be talking about that. Was one of the first things that Olivia and I like bonded over as friends, so we'll have to talk about that.
We're gonna do like depending on how they release it, like an episode by episode deep dive, you know? Like, I'm ready.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that is, if there's anything that I feel qualified to speak on, it is Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know, there's many things I'm not qualified to speak on, arguably most of these books, but Avatar: The Last Airbender, I can speak on it.
Same. We were there when the magic was created.
Yes,
so.
We were there when what is the Aslan quote? Do not speak of the magic to me, witch.
I was there
when it was written. It's true though. I remember when the season 1 finale aired on Nickelodeon. We were there when it was written.
And then we'll eventually talk about the original too, or we could do a side-by-side comparison. So
yeah, and we would. I'm depending on what this is. If it's like season 1, then maybe I'll rewatch season 1 in preparation. Although I know that show by heart, but I will rewatch it again.
Yeah, it's like a good rewatch. Always a good rewatch.
Great rewatch. Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to be able to incorporate shows and movies again. It's been a long time, and we can like go back and maybe talk about things like Barbie. We never talked about the Barbie movie together.
God, right.
This like opens up a world again.
Wow.
we forgot about.
So I can't wait. But yes, welcome back everyone. Today we have some interesting topics. We are going to be talking about the second Fourth Wing book, Iron Flame. But before we do that, it's been a while since we've been together. So we're going to catch up a little bit. So Olivia, we could do Fangirl Finds / How You Been? So
Yeah.
Olivia, what have you been into recently? And
I know.
What are you doing in your like personal life? Also?
Who are you again? It's been a hot minute. I know we've had a lot of. We did our ACOTAR episode, and then that was like almost a month ago, and then we haven't been able to like meet up since then. We've had other episodes to post, but dang, yeah, it's been a hot minute. I mean, okay, we'll do Fangirl Finds. I started reading this book. I mentioned it in our episode of like releases we're looking forward to, 2024 releases. It's called What the River Knows. And I found out that the author follows me on Instagram, my art Instagram. Yeah, I found this before I read the book, but I had already followed her on my personal account when I discovered the book. And then I went to follow her on my art account, and I saw that she followed me and said follow back. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. What? And it's a book that takes place in like 19th century Egypt. It's inspired by the Mummy. And I devoured it in literally maybe 2 days. Like I ate it up. And as I was eating, as I was eating it, just fork and knife eating it. As I was reading it, I was like, this book was made for me. Like these are the books that are written for me. You know, this is the one. It's a lot of fun. Super easy read. Like the romance is fun. It has a little bit of mystery. It's not a perfect book. Like it's not a 10 out of 10 read. It has its issues, but what doesn't? I still enjoyed it. And it's going to be a duology. So there's a second book coming out next year, and I'm excited about it. And so that was like, if you're looking for a book to read, like if you're trying to reach your reading goals, which I know you've already read 400 books, so you're fine. But if you're trying to reach your reading goals, this is a good one for it to like get one out quickly.
What was it called again?
What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I don't know how to say her last name. I hope that's right. Ibanez. The great book.
Right.
Literally read it in 2 days, right before Iron Flame, because I was like, I need to just finish this before Iron Flame comes out, and I did it. I read it right before.
Which means, did you meet your goal, your reading goal yet?
I did. I'm at 15 books, so I'm on my stretch goal almost. My stretch goal was 16, and if I finish Iron Flame, which I will, I
For
will
the
be at even my
podcast, you have to.
yeah.
Soon.
I mean, this is part one of a two-parter on Iron Flame. But yeah, I will. I will have met it. I will have exceeded it.
Woo, 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 woo.
What about you? How many books have you read this year?
I met mine too, just this past
Nice.
weekend. We're
What
on
was
the
your
same
goal?
reading level right now. My goal is 24.
Okay, nice. Look at you go.
But one of them was a lot shorter. They varied. Like, so the two that I've read recently, I guess I'll just go into my fangirl finds because like I really like this book and it has to do with like Middle Eastern countries. It's called Squire, but it's a illustrated book. So Squire by Nadia Shamas and Sarah Alfeji. Don't know how to pronounce your names. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. But it's like a mythological world that stems a lot from like Middle Eastern culture. And like, I'm not Middle Eastern, but I have like Indian culture that kind of I could like relate. There's like notes that I'm like, yep, similar. But I really liked it. I thought it was a really cute book, friends. Almost like a historical period piece. And then I also read Good Girl, Bad Blood, which is the second book to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And these have been like blown up. I don't know if have you seen it on TikTok?
No, have not. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Yeah. It's like a book talk book that like is very popular and I think it's overhyped. So I will say that I didn't give it like 5 stars. I think I give them like 3, maybe the last one too. Not my favorite, but those are what I've been reading recently.
Most book talk books, as we will get into, are typically overhyped. But so Squire, I follow that artist on Instagram, Sarah Alfegi. I think that's how you would say it in Arabic, but I follow her on Instagram. She's a great artist. I've been following her for a few years.
What? I love her work. That's so cool.
Yeah, she's great. But she posted one time like that she wants to connect with like Arab American artists, and I was like, hi, hello. Although Egyptians may or may not identify as Arab, but I just say that I am. It's fine.
Politics.
It's politics. It's fine. I'm like, sure, it's okay. But yeah, that's awesome. That's cool that you're reading that. It's super cool.
Yeah, you should check it out too. But then otherwise, I went to Mexico City for 2 weeks. Well, no, not 2 weeks. Wow, it felt like 2 weeks. It felt like a while. It was 8 days, and it was a blast. But me and my friend Shreya, we did so much during the trip. We are planners, so we met like we started planning since like May, and like we started like booking things and like figuring things out, and like we just formed a really really good trip. And I want to create a video based off it, either like full YouTube video or like content on my personal channel on Totally Tanya. So check out for that. But yeah, I was going to tell you, we were like catching up before this, me and Olivia, and I was telling her like before I went, I had a lot of people tell me like, "Oh, you're going to Mexico City without James, my boyfriend. You're gonna go to Mexico City. It's not safe." And I'm like, Mexico's just like the U.S. You know, there's terrible parts of Detroit you shouldn't go to, terrible parts of where I live that you shouldn't go to. You can still go to these places, just avoid the bad parts. Like, be smart, do your research. Like, there's so many beautiful places in Mexico. It's such a vibrant culture. And there's such good food. You're missing out on the food if you don't go. And it's beyond just like the touristy beach places in Cancun. Like definitely go to other places in Mexico because I had a blast. It's one of my favorite cities now. It's just like a gorgeous place and people were so nice. And they speak Spanish much slower than when I studied abroad in Spain. Spain Spanish is a lot faster. So I could actually speak to people. My Spanish got better over the course of 8 days. So very good.
I mean, I've heard that that's the best way to learn a language is like immersion. You know, my Arabic is always better when I'm in Egypt for a few weeks. I'm like, wow, I can actually kind of speak it, and then it disappears.
Yeah.
It just goes away. So yeah, I believe that. I wonder why their languages they speak a little slower. That's interesting. But
it's by each country and even regional. But like so each Latin American country they speak Spanish totally different. Like I can't even understand Cuban speakers. Their Spanish is just so different. Like the colloquial terms they use, the way they like push certain vowels together, so different. And then Spain is like some of the fastest Spanish I've ever heard. So, but yeah, Mexican Spanish, that's actually what you typically learn I'm from the Midwest. When they teach you Spanish in school, it's typically Spanish from Mexico.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think so. I remember it doesn't like I know like areas of Spain also they speak like with a lisp. They have like the like Barcelona. Like they'll say that.
It depends on where you go, also because that's like
Okay.
influenced by Catalan as well. So
Oh,
it
okay.
depends on where you go. But yeah, I mean, similar things with throughout Latin America as well.
Yeah.
Certain things I say are just totally different. Like, if you watch YouTube videos of Anya Taylor-Joy, she's actually Argentinian. That's like her
Yeah.
first language is Spanish. Her Spanish is like hard for me to understand. It's very different than if you were her to hear like Diego Luna, who I believe is from Mexico,
That makes
speak
sense.
Spanish. So it's
Yeah.
just a difference.
That makes sense. Like Arabic is the same also. Like Egyptian Arabic is very different than like Lebanese Arabic or otherwise. I cannot understand anyone else's Arabic. Only Egyptian Arabic.
Right.
Everyone else over my head. Like,
Yeah.
like, do you not
We don't
understand?
speak the same language. Yes.
No, truly. Yeah, to your point. It's like they'll connect things differently or they'll even just have flat out different words and you're just like, we are not speaking the same.
Yeah.
0 out of 10. Do not understand. But that's cool. I'm glad you got to go. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we often do fandom feedback, and we got one piece of feedback. We got a hater comment. Did you see?
A hater comment where?
Listen, on YouTube.
Oh,
It was on
okay.
listen, okay, Olivia and I spent a lot of time on the Akatar video that's not getting a lot of views.
Please watch
And we
it.
understand we haven't been marketing it. That's fair. We hear you, but at the same time, we spend a lot of time. So everyone, please go watch the Akatar video. We spent so much time on it and we dressed up for it and I enjoyed it. Olivia did such a great job editing. 10 out of 10.
We did a good job setting it up. I'm glad we covered our bases with the audios too, because some of our audio got like corrupted, but like others didn't. It was great. We just did a good job with it. Like the setup was good. And I think it's a good discussion. I know Akatar is not the top of our mind. We're a little bit rusty on it, but there's a lot to discuss with Akatar. And
Yeah.
we'll be doing more.
And we're going to keep talking about him, but
Yeah.
this one person, our only comment on the video, I'm not going to say their name, but you will be able to find it if you know. But they said, so you set up 3 cameras to talk about a book you had to look up the plot points for, LOL. And I said, yes, because if you watch the video, sir and or ma'am or person, we say that the plot could use some help. But the character development had us dressing up as the characters for Halloween 3 to 5 years after we read the books. So we do say that in the video. This person just didn't watch.
No, they're
just a hater.
Yeah, that's whatever. YouTube is just like people are. I don't know what like possesses people to even just like want to comment these things. Like there's never a world in which I want to comment anything like that, even if I'm thinking it. You know what you do? You click away.
You scroll away.
You scroll up. It's like what possesses you to like bully someone? I don't know. It's super weird.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. I've had the most haters on YouTube and Twitter, so it's saying things.
Twitter is toxic. I've left it officially.
Good for you.
I'm on Threads now.
I can't do it. I can't because I want to look up a topic. I can't do it. That's why. But
I know. Threads is not great, but I'm just like I deleted Twitter from my phone. So, and I honestly haven't missed it. It's been fine.
Nice.
Yeah. Bye, Elon. Bye.
Elon. I always forget Elon's short for watermelon.
Is it really?
No, that's a joke.
Oh. Like, wait, what?
That was a tweet someone said.
Oh, really?
I always forget.
Oh, let me see Elon's short for watermelon.
Today we're just gonna be focusing on part 1, so half of Iron Flame. So we're actually literally like halfway through. Olivia and I happen to be around the same percentage through the book. So this will be a spoiler-filled episode. We'll put that in our title as well. So if you got this far and you haven't read the book, please leave. We're going to be talking about all the things.
Everything is on the table with this. Everything in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Obviously not the end of Iron Flame for this book because we haven't read it yet. We haven't finished the book. But just part 1 of Iron Flame. It's literally part 1 because we just got to part 2, kind of. So literally just part 1 because they divide it into parts. So I'm like, wow, that also works out. So yeah, this is your only spoiler warning. If you're still listening and you don't want spoilers, I can't help you anymore. Goodbye. yeah, there's a lot to discuss about this. Maybe we start with like our first impressions, just like our initial thoughts, and then we'll dig deeper into all the thoughts we have. But Tawny, what are your like initial impressions of Iron Flame so far?
Yeah, well, I do want to say, so we got to part 2, chapter 39. That's about as far as we got. So we'll mention things up until then. If you haven't gotten that far, even if you're reading it actively, we'll probably tell you things that you might have not read yet. So just so everyone knows. But initial reactions, I wrote like a dislike and like a pros and cons list, if you will. So I created a pros and cons list, and as I go through these, we're going to be talking about them together because Olivia and I aligned on almost all these. But we'll start with the likes. We'll start out with a positive note, and then we'll go into dislikes because that list is longer. So I do like the sexy parts. That's why I like these sorts of books. And one of the main issues with that is that like I still think that she should have had a longer burn, a slower burn. But now that they're together, sure, it's fine. I do enjoy those parts. But there's issues with it that we'll talk about in the dislikes. What about you?
I've made it very clear on like these podcast episodes that like I'm not the biggest smut fan. Like I'm not a prude, but but I'm not the biggest smut fan. So I actually didn't mind that it took a little bit to get to them in this book. Like it took a little bit more time in this book, which I appreciate. But yeah, I agree. I would like even a slower burn. But those are like those are not the reasons I'm like reading the book, which is maybe to my faults because most people are only reading it because of the smut. But I'm not reading it because of the smut. The smut could be there, not be there, and it wouldn't really bother me. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I don't mind the smut necessarily. It's not the worst. It's not like A Court of Silver Flames, which was like every 20 seconds at some point. You're just like, enough. Stop. Like, get off each other.
So much. How are you gonna make this a movie?
Yeah, right. It's like 90% sex. Like literally, it's Court of Silver Flames is everywhere. It was like every 20 seconds. But no, this is like there's only been 2 smutty scenes, I think, in 50% of the book. So not like it's fine. That's a fine ratio to me.
Yeah, I do agree that. Well, I like smut, but I like it in a fantasy context. Like I don't read smut that's like modern or contemporary. I specifically like it like wear medieval clothes. That's what I want with smut.
I agree. I've read contemporary romance that has smut in it, and I immediately get the ick. I'm like, ugh, this is a man that guy could find on the street. Gross.
This could be anyone.
Disgusting. Yeah. This could be anybody. Yeah. I think the fantasy element just adds like a layer of intrigue that's fun. And then like I get a little bit grossed out when Xaden uses his like shadows kind of in the world a little bit. I find it a little bit strange. I found this strange in the first book too, when the shadows are kind of they're not explicitly involved in the smut, like in the sex. At least I don't think so. I don't think the shadows are actively in the sex.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, in the sex. But I do find it a little bit creepy when the shadows are around. I'm like, I don't know if I like this.
Oh, in general, just like when you say
like if like like there'll be moments where the shadows are like I think at one point like Violet falls and the shadows help catch her, and I'm like, I don't know, this is weird. This is weird.
I don't mind it as much, but again, this is gonna go towards our dislikes. I just don't understand his powers that well. Like I feel like when we watched we watched Akatar. I felt like I could understand the limits to their powers. You know what I mean? Like I thought she did a good job of explaining like the magical world and the magical system. I have no idea what's happening, like with their powers, their signets, and like the limits. Like I didn't know he could catch people. I didn't know that's what he could do with his powers. So that was news to me.
He can do anything. Like he's opening doors with his shadow powers. Like he's doing a lot of things. It's interesting. I mean, well, this is a whole topic of conversation. It's just the world building. We can get into that. But what else?
That'll be a big part of our dislikes. But yeah, anyways, I just have like 2 more likes, and I'm sure you're the same. So again, spoilers, but like I really started enjoying the book once the rebellion started. Before then, did not enjoy it. And like I specifically enjoyed when Mira and the gang's back together, like Mira, Brennan, and Violet are back together, the siblings. I started getting back into it because I'm like, these are characters I know. I understand this. But before then, which will, segue into our dislikes, the first half of the book is just like unbearable. It's so hard to get through when it's like so many hours long. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest critique is truly that like the first half of this book, nothing happens. Like basically the first 50% nothing happens. And then so like that moment when like Violet gets like kidnapped by Varish and like she drinks that thing from Nolan, like the serum or whatever that blocks her from her dragon, which like girl should have seen that coming. We've seen the like that serum in the drink happen at least 2 or 3 times before that moment. And I, even as it was happening, I was like, really, you're just gonna drink anything this man gives you? Like, come on,
Stop it. I know.
yeah,
I'm like, she's not the smartest
no,
sometimes. Like, come
she's
on.
not the smartest all the time. Like, we should have seen that coming. But yeah, not a lot happens after that moment when she does get kidnapped. So much happens, and you're just like, whoa, wait, okay, we spent the first half of this book, nothing's happened, and then now it feels like this is the climax of the novel, but we still have another halfway to go. So I'm just confused as to where else this is going to go. There's just like the book could have ended here, but I mean, it shouldn't have because nothing happened. But the book could have ended in that last moment when like that she escapes, and I feel like that could have just been like book 2, and you'd be like, oh, okay, I guess that's what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't hate the first half of this book because I don't necessarily mind world building. I don't necessarily mind all of that stuff. However, I think the biggest issue with the way that this book does world building is that it's through the lens of a class. You're only ever learning the characters while the world while the characters are in class. Or like a random conversation that like Violet is having with Jasenia or some random professor. I don't know. So it's so hard to keep track. I didn't mind that first half of the book, but I'm just like, we need to find a better way to tie it in rather than just like me literally going to class with her to learn all this stuff that we're
Yeah.
learning.
Which gets to one of our points too. We're now in like the dislikes is that like my biggest issue with like the lack of world building in this, not even the first half, but like even the first book, is that like it's all from Violet's perspective. And like when I'm comparing this book to books I do like, they have different perspectives so that you can see more of this universe in this world. And so you get a lack of that with just having Violet's perspective, which is a flaw, I think, to this writer. But and to that point, one thing we're confused about is if you listen to the very beginning of the book, it says that Jasenia writes this book, a scribe writes this book. And so how is Jasenia able to write everything in this book? Like there's so much writing about like what Violet's literally thinking. You know what I mean? So like can Jasenia read minds? She's not a writer. She doesn't have a dragon, so she doesn't have a signet. So she doesn't have a power that we know of. So we're waiting to figure out how that's explained. We want to know
I
now.
I don't think it's anything to explain. I think it's just not planned correctly. Like I think Jasenia is right. She's a scribe. She's writing it, but we're not thinking that hard about it. In the fact that we're hearing in like Violet's internal monologue. Like I just don't think she thought about it.
Maybe. I mean, to bring it up again, I do think like she's gonna circle back to it at some point, but I just wonder
Maybe.
how. I wonder how, if it'll be like, since Dane's a goodie now, not a baddie, maybe Dane helps. You know what I mean? Someone with that power, and then she can actually write it. So I don't know. It is bizarre
Maybe
to
like,
keep
yeah,
bringing it up. Yeah.
Yeah. It is just, it doesn't make any sense. Where it's like Jasenia has faithfully scribed this, and we're just hearing Violet and only Violet's
Only
perspective.
Violet. If you're a
And
writer, why don't we take other perspectives?
Yeah, I just truly don't think Rebecca Yarros thought about it that hard. I really just don't.
2 seconds.
Yeah. And I think she might retcon it. Yeah. Maybe in a future book she'll try and retcon it. But
It's incredibly limiting what she did. It'd be better if she just entirely didn't do that. We'll see. Again, only on book 2 of like 5, so we'll see how this sets up.
which I don't understand. I don't understand how we'll go that far. I to the point of like, so Jasenia is scribing this and we're only getting Violet's perspective. I think like it fundamentally that just doesn't make sense because Violet's like also she's in class. How is Jasenia getting any of this? Like did Violet just sit down with her and tell her everything that she was thinking? I don't know, regardless. But my biggest issue also with the world building is that we don't know. I'm confused as to like the major crux of the plot here. I'm confused as to the major point of contention. Like, I'm not bought into the major point of contention. Like, the issue that Violet now knows that there is such a thing as wyvern, whatever they're called, and venom, and she cannot tell anyone else because this is like a great secret. But they know that griffin exist. So why are wyvern suddenly off limit? Like, we know we have griffin and dragons in this world, but wyvern suddenly is too much. That's folklore.
Yeah.
And we already are against the griffin riders. Those are the baddies. But wyvern and venom are not the baddies. We just don't know about them.
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it at all. It wasn't explained. I still don't understand. We had to go to Reddit. We had to go to like different sources to understand. And so that just kind of tells you like her world building was not that strong. But yeah, I don't get like why are they the baddies? I wish there was like more perspective as to like why should we care? What happened?
I just don't get why we like allow griffin and we are like against the griffin riders, but wyvern is where it's too much for the people to understand. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't.
Are
I
they
can't-
inherently evil? Like, yeah, I don't get it.
I don't get it. Like, we're already in a world where magic exists. Like, we already know that dragons and griffin exists. Like, why is wyvern where the line is drawn? Like, why?
I really don't understand.
I don't get it. And the entire time, like, Violet is wanting to tell her friends, and all her friends are being like assassinated because they know this secret. And I'm like, I just don't understand why this is such a big secret. I don't get it. I do not understand. Like, why is the entire government of Navarre so scared to let people know about this? Like, what difference does it make? I don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand when we're already against the griffin. Like,
Yeah, we're already like that's news, and then now they're goodies. Okay, cool.
I'm
And then like
confused.
something with Poromil too, like the history, which I don't fully understand. Like she pieces it in at some points, and I'm like, I forget it though. I'm like, this isn't important. So she might have explained it. I have no idea, but I just it needs to be stronger. I really don't understand the conflict.
I don't understand the conflicts between the different, like, the Boromir. I don't know any of these people. What is it like?
Sorry
Kiki
to that
Palmer?
man.
Sorry to this man. I don't know this man. Or was it who someone died earlier in the novel? Like Soleil? No.
Soleil.
Soleil?
Yeah. Who is Soleil?
Who is this man? Who is this man? Sorry
is it
to
someone's
this man.
dragon? Is it yeah, I don't know. Who are these people? Why should we care?
Yeah, we're made to care. We're just told to care about these people, but I don't know who they are. And that gets you to the next problem where like people are dying left and right, at least in the beginning of this book. Like her friend Nadine dies suddenly in a class, like that guy who was like hired to murder Violet and her neck gets like snapped by that dude. I think it was Nadine. I don't know. I don't remember the character's name. And you're just like, who is letting this? What is this school where people are just getting their necks snapped every just in class? Like, what is this?
With no consequences. Yeah, nothing. I mean, Nadine was like outside of like central characters. Like she was mentioned so many times that she's died, and we're like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
I was like, whoa, okay. Like, I'm not like upset because I didn't know her enough, but I was just kind of like, what is this school? I was just like, logically, how is this school still running if everyone is just able to assassinate each other basically at any point in time? Like, how is this logical?
How is it still going? Yeah, and you need more writers, but you keep killing your cadets. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And then like Violet kind of tries to explain it where she's like, well, they want you to get like to become accustomed to death so that you are crafted into the ultimate weapon. I'm like, this is a really thin argument because half of you are dead. Like, so who is the weapon when you could have more of you? Now you are just half of you who are traumatized.
Yeah, let's A/B test this and see how far fear of dying and actually dying gets you versus everyone lives and are stronger for it. Let's figure that out.
Doesn't make any sense. And again, I still don't get. The crux of all of this, the world building and the history are just like very thinly crafted, and I actually think are pretty interesting. Like, I don't hate it. I don't hate the concept of this book. I just don't. It's clearly not done totally well because we're confused.
Yeah.
We're confused.
And likewise, like I don't hate it, and like I'm actually quite enjoying it now. Like, and we're interested and intrigued for a reason. We want this like fantasy, romantasy world. But yeah, I want to know more about it. I'm into it for those reasons. It needs to be stronger. I'm
Yeah.
struggling to understand. Help me connect. I'm here.
I
I'm
am
on the
here.
front lines, you know?
Yeah.
Let me
Like,
in.
you have me enough. Like,
Yeah.
I'm reading it. Like, I do not finish books I don't like. Like, it's just, I do like them. Like, I will admit it against maybe my better judgment. I like these books. I just want, like, I feel like we're almost there. Like, we have like 1 foot over the line. I was like, just come on, like a little more.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more. Just tell me more. Like,
Okay.
we're almost there.
Tangentially related, when I like to compare to other books that I like so that I can like understand what is like maybe off about this, but like in other books obviously having another perspective helps, but it also helps to like have a retelling of like the history, like from that perspective of people who were there, like so that we can understand. Like so I know like in Throne of Glass she did that a lot. She would like Sarah J Maas would write like from like a perspective of like a character who was like there at that time, so you get it, and I was fully immersed and I understood. This is like all through like history books and like the classes, like you said. So just want to mention that.
We're literally going to class with Violet, and that's
Yeah.
how we're supposed to learn how things are going. And I'm like, I'm not getting it. Like, I'm confused because I have nothing to reference. Like, this is not any information that I understand. I don't know these names. I don't know these places. Like, I just don't know. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But it's trying. It's trying. Something that takes me out of it too, that like I just wish we would fix is, and we were just talking about this earlier, is the use of like modern language in the books. Like every time a fuck is thrown, every time a shit is thrown, every time the words turned on is thrown in the book, I'm like, is this a modern day book, or are we in a fantasy world? Like, though, that modern day language, just every time it's like the car is braking dramatically. Like, almost, it's like, oh, it's just takes me out of it for a second. Like, why don't we just find a little bit of better language? Like, it's not, you're almost there. Again, like, we're getting there. We're getting there. Just tweak these things. Like, why didn't her editor like tell her to not use this language? I don't know. It just really bothers me. It really takes me out of it.
Yeah, I agree. Like create different curse words. And I know that they have like what were the two we mentioned? Like their gods. Like instead of saying like, oh my god, they'll say something else like their gods. But I don't know their god. Like they don't mention like what the historical like reference is for that, or like how many gods they have. So but yeah, so when they do use those modern curse words as well, it's just like it's jarring. It's like, why? This is not
Yeah,
our
it's like,
world. This is not Earth.
it's not English. Like, are you
Yeah.
speaking modern day English? Like, I don't understand what we're speaking, because this is just modern day English.
Yeah.
Turning on, like when she says I'm turned on, gets me every time. I'm like, no, because I don't even say that in real life. Like, it's the stupidest thing to say. Like,
Yeah.
why are you saying that? And there's like a line in one of the earlier chapters where she's like, dragon riders party as hard as they like train, and they train pretty hard. No, no, no,
No.
no, fix this. Like, why is this here?
Make another word for party. Yeah, I thought those were too. I'm like also like party's like a kind of modern, like
It's
make
a
it something
modern
else.
word.
Yeah.
Party, that one. And then I've mentioned this many times in our conversations, like when she's talking to Liam's younger sister, and she's like, you're in your development era. And I'm like, does TikTok exist in the Fourth Wing universe in Navarre? Like, why are we saying in your development era? I like freaked out. I literally, like, I was listening to the audiobook at the time, and I literally paused it. I was like, no way. I did not just hear that. In your development era? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Where are the editors? Where
No
are
editors.
they?
It's just like SJM. They're just like send it. Just send it.
With the 6-month timeline, yes, that's definitely what happened. Yeah, I'm like, those are the things that just like make this book less than it can be. And I actually think it has decent bones. I do think it has decent bones, but it is just it's the details that matter, and those details are flawed. They're
Yeah.
not great. Speaking of the 6-month timeline, Have you seen all the like misprints that have been happening?
A little. I haven't seen. I've like heard of, but I haven't like seen them specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard.
I think part of the issues that that this book has is due to the speed of which they're putting it out. And we mentioned in our previous podcast that we thought that this book would be pretty telling of how the series is going to go. We were like, Iron Flame is going to be a pretty big testament to how the series goes moving forward. And so far, I think we're pleasantly surprised by the book in itself, but the misprints, I think, were very telling of just the business model of Red Tower Publishing, because basically everyone got a misprint of Iron Flame. Like, chapters were missing. It said Fourth Wing when it was Iron Flame, and Iron Flame when it was Fourth Wing, and the pages are ripped, and like so many misprints and so many issues that it just goes to show that like the 6-month timeline, while I'm not mad that this book came out so fast, it just has to be at a certain standard. So if we're not like editing this properly and we're using words like turned on and party, like then, and if everyone's you're paying your like hard-earned money to get a $30 book and it's like misprinted, these are just like, you then don't promise to do that. Like, just, this is not what people should be paying for. It's not what a publishing company should be willing to put out. So that was just a thought I had on this, like that I think it shows some of the flaws in the business model a little bit, even if the like bones of the story is not the worst. It's like you cannot perform the best if it's like, if you're just trying to shove it in this quick timeline.
I think a lot of these issues are attributed to that quick timeline, and I think you can take your time. What's the rush?
I mean, yeah, like George R. R. Martin's still going. Not that I can compare this to Game of Thrones, but
like good writing takes time. It's true for anyone. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, so I just think she should take her time.
yeah.
Then yeah, that's unfortunate. I didn't get a physical book, but I can imagine that I'd be upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I waited. Some people went to that midnight release party. I saw one TikTok about like people go to the midnight release party and the books didn't even come in time for all those people who pre-ordered. So
That's so sad. Like, then don't promise to get the book out in 6 months. And they just don't do that. No one's asking you for it to come in 6 months. So like, don't do it.
yeah, take your time.
Which I think the third book, it sounds like it might actually be later. That's what I'm hearing. Might not be 6 months, which that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Some other questions I had going into this book is like, we don't really have any explanation as to how Brennan is alive. I don't think we've learned anything as of halfway of the book, like why he's alive. Do we know?
There was explanation at the beginning that I just had to keep re-listening to. There was some sort of explanation. Do you remember, like, as he was dying, someone else died instead or something? And they're saying, anyways, me struggling to retell you this is like,
I have no idea.
reason. It was literally in the very beginning of the book, and I have them saved because I was on the plane and I was like saving, like, what's happening. So I'll have to go and revisit, but it was like very limited.
Yeah, I don't. So I just looked it up briefly. After he was wounded in battle, he was revived by Naolin. Who's Naolin? So this is the rabbit hole that Fourth Wing takes you in. You're like, who is this?
Who are these people?
And I've never seen that name before in my entire life.
So I kept rewinding. I'm like, it's hard for me to follow. I don't know these people.
Who's Naolin? Who dat? Yeah, so like we just go down these rabbit holes of people that we don't, maybe was mentioned one time. Oh, Naolin was a dragon rider and bonded with Tairn. He was Tairn's former rider. What? When did that happen?
I slightly remember that from the beginning.
I do not remember.
That's why Terrence didn't have a writer before Violet, because he died.
I knew that, but I didn't know that he saved Brennan.
It's at the very beginning of this book, but yeah, it's like I don't remember.
Wild. Okay, well now we know. Answered that question.
Know.
I just like literally was like, okay, this band's alive. I have no idea. No question. I thought returning to Basgiath was oddly interesting, like just oddly easy. Like it was like one stressful conversation, and then they're like, "Okay, welcome back. Everything's fine now." Which again goes into the whole issue of the secret. Like I'm not bought into the secret of that they're trying to keep from their students, and like Violet's whole, like, I can't tell anyone. I'm just not bought in. Now, as where we're at the book, like of chapter 39, that secret's dead and gone. Like, everyone knows now. So
That happened very quick. Yeah, I am
yeah,
like surprised that like this secret we've been keeping for decades.
the
Like
people are dying
everyone knows
for.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, the people are literally literally like half of the people who are at Resin, like at that fight after the war games or whatever, are dead, murdered, assassinated because they know about the Wyvern and the Venom. And now because Violet was kidnapped and like tortured for a few days, Xaden just like dropped Wyvern in people's like in front of people's yards to just let people know. I'm just like, I'm not, how are they keeping this a secret? And I'm not bought into why it needs to be a secret. Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah.
And now it's not a secret. Now it's fine.
No, it's not a secret. Very
Now-
quickly. Oh, that's all you had to do was just drop carcasses. Okay, well,
now we're good. Yeah.
that was
And
like
Mira
I thought that was
knows.
also very badly explained. I'm like,
I just
what?
don't get it. It's like, if you think about, I'm the type of person, like, which I think most people who are reading this book, you can enter the world of this book and you can just read it and like not think about it. But the moment you do try to think about it, yeah, these questions come up. You're like, wait, what? What? Wait, how?
Please
Why?
explain. Yeah.
Yeah, you just, but again, you can accept it in the novel. Like, you can. But I'll be interested to see where it goes now because Wyvern, everyone knows about them. And Xaden's like a king. Xaden's like a king of swords.
Yeah, I didn't. They keep mentioning like, oh, and he has this house. I'm like, wait. What is his
Ryerson
background?
House.
What is his like? Yeah, I know his dad was like a general or something, but I didn't know he was like. I didn't know he was
Like a king.
royalty. Like he's a king.
I don't know.
Beyond me. I had no idea.
Literally, I was like, of course he is. Of course he
course.
is. But yeah, I was like, why is this his home? Like, why are we all now in his house? And I love how when all the writers who do follow them from Basgiath, they are now just reforming Basgiath in this like new in like where they are now, wherever the Raisha or wherever they are. I like how they're just like they just redid the school. Like, they're going to class again. I was like, if I escaped from my school because they were telling me lies, I wouldn't just like recreate the school elsewhere. I
Yeah.
wouldn't just go to class somewhere else. This is weird. There's a lot to say more, but I guess that's good for the first half of the book.
Yeah. I'm hoping. Yeah. Well, it is we're immersed at this point, so I'm feeling better about it. But yeah, so let us know what you all think. I feel like people have opinions. I'm like too afraid to like go on TikTok and like look at videos because I already know people are going to be talking about the whole book and not just half of it. So
yeah, if someone can answer our question as to why the Wyvern were secret for so long, like why did we want to keep it a secret? Please help us out because I have not heard a good explanation as to why. Thanks for listening to our first half of our Iron Flame deep dive episode. And thanks for listening to the Fangirl Feels podcast. We post every week on Monday, so tune in again next week to hear part 2 of this series. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can listen to us. We're on YouTube as well if you want to watch the podcast, not just listen to us. And leave us a comment, like, follow, leave us a review on Spotify. That's good for us as well. We've seen a few of those reviews come in, which is exciting. And let us know your thoughts on Iron Flame and on anything you can help us learn about Iron Flame, because clearly we're missing some stuff. But we're here. We're enjoying it. We're reading it.
Rebecca Yaros, if you want to chime in, we got questions.
We got questions.
Let us
Yeah.
know.
I'm not a hater. I just don't understand.
I'm a hater sometimes. I'm gonna be honest.
I am a hater sometimes too. I mean, we literally named one of our episodes Haters.
Mhm.
So it's fine. But we'll be back next week with another episode. But until then, bye.